My name is Stephen Kent. I'm the author of How the Force Can Fix the World, Lessons on Life, Liberty, and Happiness from a Galaxy Far, Far Away. And today we're going to be talking about the political value of engaging in the culture. And the reason is relatively straightforward. It's that we have less in common than ever these days if you look around our country. People have started to sort geographically into clustered areas of like-minded neighbors. We are no longer making our friends at church services or civic organizations anymore so that we can find out the ways in which we have things in common. We're not even getting our information from the same sources as one another. I'm not even talking about Fox or CNN or MSNBC versus One America News. I mean, some of us might not even be getting our information from television at all. You're probably just getting it from Facebook or whatever YouTube is giving you through their algorithm. And that has real consequences for the culture. This is why I am fiercely defensive as a person about the things that we do still have in common, the things that we can still make jokes about and talk to one another about during our breaks at work. And I know we're all frustrated with Disney these days, and they very much deserve it. But I want to turn your attention to a thing that they bought in 2015 from George Lucas, a mega franchise, which very much is one of those things that gives us something that we can talk about and all know. Because think about it, you're in Vegas. Would you walk out into the casino and wager $100 on some guy sitting at the slots being able to identify Princess Leia out of a lineup or Thomas Jefferson? Now, I think it would be Princess Leia. Let's be clear. That may not necessarily be a good thing, but it is reality. In the past 40 years, Darth Vader is still all over kids' backpacks, the Christmas ornaments that you get from Target, and that's for a reason. Sociologist Jonathan Haidt has posited that successful liberal democracies are defined by three things. They have strong community bonds, social connection, you know your neighbors, strong institutions, and then shared stories. That can be a founding story of the country. That can be an origin story for mankind. It can also be the bedtime stories that we tell our kids. Think Star Wars in this instance. It would be nice if 75% of people around us all knew Thomas Jefferson's life story and the founding documents of the country. That would be really, really good. But I would settle for 75% of people around me knowing that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. That also has some cultural value. It gives us at least something that is a commons that we all know and can discuss. Star Wars is that common mythology. It's a bedtime story of sorts. It's a moral tale that a lot of our kids will be exposed to, and we will probably watch joyfully together on the couch on Christmas vacation or Thanksgiving. It's a great story. It's the hero's journey. I learned a lot from Star Wars as a kid. It was your focus determines your reality. Do or do not, there is no try. It's all these little things that sort of teach you how to be a good person as you move throughout the world. And you start to pick up, as you age, on some of the more subtle messages within Star Wars, the things that are a little bit beneath the surface. One of those things is the Star Wars prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3. George Lucas put them out in between 1999 and 2005. They tell the story of a republic which is degrading and falling into basically just total disorder as a result of endless war, reckless spending, expanding executive authority, and eventually they acquiesce to one-man rule as a solution to all of the disorder that they are facing. I think we all know in this room that this is essentially the Roman Empire story in space, the very story that our founders were also wary of founding our own country. But there's something else at play in those films, something a little bit more on the personal side. And it's the story of Anakin Skywalker, the boy who Luke saved, of course, in Return of the Jedi, the boy who would become Darth Vader. Why is he the perfect model for a dictator? People are often surprised when I say this, but Star Wars does not make a very good case for why democracy is great or worth defending. In fact, it shows it kind of at its worst in a lot of these films. And George Lucas channeled his views on democracy into these movies, which is that it's kind of ugly and dysfunctional and can be easily bought out by private interests. And he gave an interview in 1999 to Time magazine, and they asked him, what's your ideal form of government? And he said, benevolent dictatorship. And it's kind of funny, like he just admitted it. But I actually think that's very human. Benevolent dictatorship, the wise leader who does know what is best for everybody and can therefore do it. So I gotta say, like, that sounds great. If that's a thing that could actually exist, if we could ever look back into history and see that it is possible, I mean, I might sign on to that, but it's not. If we could have that, things would get done. You might not have an immigration crisis at the border every single day of your existence because of a do-nothing and cowardly Congress. You might actually finally get tax reform done. You could actually have an all-powerful and wise executive who knows exactly how to regulate big tech in a way that both curtails the influence of corporations but also protects freedom of speech and the First Amendment in this country. These things are very, very hard to navigate. Anakin Skywalker, the boy who would become Darth Vader, was wired to think like this. And one of my main theses is that your kids might also be wired to think like this. You might be wired to think like this. But what we read and what we teach our kids, right, what we learn, that's kind of how we curtail those instincts that we have. There's a scene in episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Maybe you saw this movie, maybe you didn't, but I'll break it down for you. Boy on the left is Anakin Skywalker. He's going to become Darth Vader in just a couple of years. This is his love interest, Senator Amidala. They're having lunch, and she picks up that he does not much care for her profession, politics. So she asks him, how would you like to see things done if you're so smart? And he says, well, if I could design a system, it would be one where the politicians get together, they discuss what's in the best interest of the people, and then they do it. And she laughs and she's like, that's what we do. The problem is that people don't always agree. To which Anakin says, well, then they should be made to. Who's going to make them? You? No, not me. Someone wise, just someone else who can do this. And here's the kicker. I mean, Padme then says to him, well, that sounds an awful lot like a dictatorship. And he just laughs and he says, if it works. I want to pose a question to you, which is think of your country. How certain are you that all the people around you at any given time, think your family, your friends, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Independents, how certain are you that they really buy into what we're doing here? That they naturally support and love democracy? Because what we do here is actually really, really hard. You don't get what you want all the time. Power is changing hands every 4 years. It's kind of ugly. Even if you win, you still don't get everything that you want. It's really, really hard, but it's also beautiful because we know what the alternative is. Star Wars is speaking to this, if you're looking for that. The lightsaber battles are cool, the space battles are awesome, but at its heart is a story of liberty versus control. I used to be certain, I really did, I used to be certain that 80% of people, you like this, don't you? I used to be certain that 80% of people around me at any given time really supported and loved democracy and self-governance. And then COVID-19 and this guy happened. And then I realized 80% of people around me at any given time might not actually support democracy and self-rule. They might only support it, like Anakin Skywalker, if everybody is comfortable, if nobody ever dies who shouldn't, if they feel safe, if things are going well, or if they are winning. And if they're not winning, you know what they will do. They will leak Supreme Court decisions to the public so they can intimidate justices. They will threaten to expand the court. They will, like Justin Trudeau, they will monitor or freeze bank transactions for your political contributions. They will just change the rules of the game. You see this all the time, every time you turn on the news. In Star Wars' case, they literally just built a Death Star to force unity at gunpoint. That's what the whole thing was about. And most of you know that this is why our system was designed the way that it is. Our founders were wary of this. They knew that we were not angels and that we needed hurdles, checks and balances, all these things to slow down our dormant totalitarian instincts. It's just sort of built into human nature to want things to be safe and to go well. But I just can no longer assume that the majority of our neighbors do think this way. And it's why I wrote How the Force Can Fix the World. And it's a book about trying to look into Star Wars and extract the best messages on liberty that are in these movies. Because this is like the most important franchise of the world for the past 40 years, whether we like it or not. I happen to love it. It would be great if our schools taught our kids how to think about liberty, but they're not doing that. So I will settle for pop mythology that is actually putting forward a pretty good lesson in its place. I just want to leave you with one picture. It's the first time that we see Anakin Skywalker in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. He's about to leave home for the first time to train as a Jedi. He's 9 years old. He's never been anywhere else. He's never seen anything. And he says to his mother, "I don't want things to change." And she says to him, "Well, you can't stop the change any more than you can stop the sun from setting." And then she says, "Don't look back." What do you think he does? He looks back. Because Anakin could never let go of things. He didn't want things to change. And my question for you today as we discuss this issue is, can you accept change? Can you let go? Can you embrace spontaneity, social change, technological upheaval, changing trends, without trying to find kind of political tools, miniature Death Stars, to force things back to being the way that they might have been before? Can you accept California having abortion if it means that you can ban it in your state? And I get it. Progressives want to control you. They want to enforce California values on everybody. But we are not them. And we can't be. And I hope we are not. We know that liberty demands that we try.